Hello everyone and welcome to another edition of Ask a Zookeeper, Your Questions. These are the questions that you've sent in over the last few weeks. If you have a question that you would like to be answered in a future episode, please write that in the comments below. I would be happy to address it in the future. The first question comes from Christian Trossell from Sweden. What happens to the rocks when the bird is done rock chewing? This is a good question. So this is a follow-up from the previous episode where we were talking about bird gizzards. It turns out that birds have an organ called a gizzard where they can store rocks because, as we talked about, birds don't have teeth, but they can swallow food whole, and it goes into that gizzard, and the gizzard is full of rocks, and they can massage the organ, and the rocks will chew up all the food that they have. Here's a diagram of the digestive system of a bird, and right here is the gizzard, labeled right there. So that's where the stones would be. So Christian's question is, what happens to those rocks? There's two things that can happen. One of them, if the rock is called a soluble rock, if it's made of limestone or other dissolvable materials that will dissolve in stomach acid, over time that rock will break down and it will eventually just pass through the bird's system as tiny particles of sand. The other thing that can happen to rocks is that they just stay there forever. That happens to insoluble rocks. Our next question comes from Dempire Strikes Back on Twitter. Crows don't have nostrils. Explain. So what Dempire is talking about is, as you can see in this picture of a African pied crow that I took, if you look where their nostrils would be, you see a big patch of feathers. And if you look closely, you can't see a nostril anywhere on that beak. So I have good news for you, Dempire. If you get the right angle, as in this picture here, you can see that crows do have nostrils. That was a fun question though. I actually wasn't sure and I had to do some research to check. But thank you for sending in that question. And our final question of the day comes from Sydney Birdbath, a channel on YouTube run by James here. And on Twitter he asks, have you heard of any bird illness that causes them to sing or squark too much? Out of a few dozen local pied currawongs, I've seen one that has lost its voice from continuously opening its beak to try to squark, and another that sings every few minutes from 4 a.m. to 7 p.m. So I found two questions in here because I had never heard of a bird that loses its voice, but indeed it is a thing because birds produce sounds in their syrinx. They can experience inflammation or have particles in them just the same way that our laryngitis works, and so they can lose their voice. That was new information for me, so thank you for pointing that out. The second question was, why would a bird squark all the way from 4 a.m. to 7 p.m.? Now this question is coming from Australia, so I'm not familiar with all the details of local wildlife in Australia, but I have a couple of guesses. Number one, I would guess that that bird is defending a territory in some way. It's letting other currawongs know that it is in that area, and it could be calling for a mate perhaps, or it could be defending a territory from other currawongs, but I'm going to guess it's communicating with other birds in a way that is unusual for the time of year, and perhaps that individual bird just really wants to be sure that the other currawongs know what's up. As far as a bird illness that makes them squawk more, I have not heard of that, but I did learn today about the disease that makes them squawk less. So I hope that information helps you, James. So that wraps up all the questions we received over the last few weeks. If you want your questions answered in a future episode, please write them in the comments below. And be sure to subscribe before you go so that you can be notified when future videos come out and you can know if I answered your question. Thanks for watching, and thanks for learning what makes life awesome.